Hello and welcome to Women of Wayland podcast. This is your host Yamini, and this episode is a bonus episode for season 5. We're doing this for the first time, so I hope you enjoy and ignore if I do not pronounce every single word properly. I hope I do.
This story has been built upon verified historical facts and archives publicly available online, including records from the Wayland Museum and Historical Society. However, much of the episode has been creatively imagined for storytelling and atmospheric effect. Any resemblance to real supernatural events is purely coincidental or perhaps part of the mystery.
New England is full of old houses. Every old house carries its secrets, some whispered through generations, others buried quietly in the land. On the edge of Wayland, Massachusetts, there stands a house called Greenways. Built more than a century ago, it has held within its walls stories of love, legacy, and just a touch of mystery. It's been home to sea captains, socialites, servants, and one small creature who lived beneath its grand staircase for over 30 years. Tonight, we are not just walking through history, we're walking through memory. And memory, as you'll soon hear, can haunt just as deeply as any ghost. This is Women of Wayland's Halloween special, The Haunted History of Greenways. In 1909, Edwin Farnum Greene built this mansion as a country retreat for his family. He was a Boston man of ambition and taste, a graduate of Brown University, well connected with an architect who knew Wayland's landscapes like old poetry. The Greenes named it Greenways, and even in its early years, it was a home designed for grandeur. Brick walls, Tudor fireplaces, a conservatory that filled dark halls with light. But the real story of Greenways began when another family moved in. In 1926, Frank and Virginia Paine purchased the estate. Frank was a naval architect, builder of yachts that cut through ocean mist. Virginia was his compass, graceful, artistic, and deeply spiritual. Their lives were layered with beauty, music, gardens, and animals that filled every room with warmth. And yet, something about Greenways always felt alive. In 1929, the Paines went on safari in Africa. There, Virginia found an orphaned monkey, tiny, trembling, alone. She named him Simmy. Simmy came home with them and never left again. For more than 30 years, he lived under the stairs of the Great Hall in Greenways, a small cage tucked into the shadows right beneath the landing that flooded the space with light. Imagine the sound of his tiny hands on the bars, the flick of a tail, the laughter of dinner guests echoing overheard while Simmy watched quietly from below. In summer, Simmy was moved to a shed near the farmer's house, still known today as the monkey shed. Neighbors say on cold nights you can still hear a scratching sound in the floorboards near the old stairwell, like something restless waiting. Virginia Paine's love for animals was legendary. Her dogs followed her everywhere: border collies, shepherds, small companions with large hearts. When they passed, she buried them in a quiet corner of the property, beneath the trees surrounded by hand-carved stones. Each grave carried an epitaph. It read, "Michael, faithful and loving; Mossy, gay, loving shepherdess; Timmy, a little dog with a great heart; Simmy, this little life is woven with the substance of our home." 1929 to 1960. The stones are still there, weathered and leaning, names barely visible. Some say if you walk past them at dusk, you can feel the devotion still pulsing in the ground. Others swear they've heard the faint bark of a dog that's been gone for decades. But Greenway's story stretches far beyond its gardens. Across the same land stands the Noyes-Parris House, built by Peter Noyes in the 1600s, and later home to Reverend Samuel Parris, known for his role in the Salem Witch Trials. Yes, the same Paris who ignited one of the darkest chapters in colonial New England. Imagine that energy. Centuries of fear and accusation woven into the same soil where Greenways now stands. The same ground walked by Thoreau, who once wrote about these very hills and chestnut trees. History doesn't fade here, it lingers. It waits quietly, like breath on glass. Beatrice Leonard, the Paine's longtime cook, once said that Mrs. Paine only listened to Frank and to God. No one ever knew quite what she meant, but perhaps in the quiet of that great house, between the chapel and the conservatory, Virginia heard more than voices. Maybe she heard echoes. Maybe she answered them. Virginia Paine lived in Greenways until her death in 1988. After that, the house sat silent for years, its halls empty, its gardens overgrown. But places like this never really rest. Every corner holds a trace of its past. The monkey's cage under the stairs, the chapel with its wooden altar, the dogs who found their way home after being lost for days, and the portraits that still gaze quietly from the walls. Maybe Greenways isn't haunted by ghosts in the traditional sense. Maybe it's haunted by love, by loyalty, by the kind of devotion that refuses to be forgotten. The haunted history of Greenways reminds us that sometimes the most powerful spirits aren't the ones that frighten us, they are the ones that simply refuse to let go. So if you ever find yourself walking near the old Greenways estate on a quiet October night, and you feel a chill or hear a rustle beneath the stairs, don't be afraid. You're just walking through someone's memory. Thank you for listening. This story was inspired by A History of Greenways, an article from the Wayland Historical Society, adapted and narrated by me, Yamini Ranjan, your host, for Women of Wayland podcast Halloween special episode. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, leave a review, and keep listening, because every town has its ghost and every ghost has a story.